Hello! I cut my hair! I cut my hair off. It was wild. If I can find pictures, I'll put them in the slideshow because it was so long. I cut like 4.5 inches. Not really, it was like 3.5. But the lady said that it was all dead and it had to go. So here we are. With short hair, she colored it a little bit. So I'm looking pretty beachy. Getting ready to, move back to where it's warm in 12 days. I'm moving back to the United States of America, for those who do not know. I am starting a job at Hammond School in Columbia, South Carolina, as they have a teaching fellow program they're starting, and I'm going to be one of the pilot people to go through it. So, yeah, I move home the 29th of August. So, yay! We are currently packing the apartment, so it is quite dirty. We also just got back from camping, which is what the vlog is all about. So, yay for the news. Moving on to the weekend adventures, per usual. So, 2 weekends ago, we didn't do anything. We stayed here and we worked on our theses. Mine is due in a week. I'm not really done yet, but I'm close. And I'm just decided today was going to be my break day to pack and get some stuff done around the house and just to relax. Because tomorrow I'm going to try to finish it so that Robert can look over it, so that my friend can look over it, and then I can be all done and turn it in on Monday and be done with my thesis. Yay! And technically grad school here in Scotland. Woo! So 2 weekends ago, didn't do anything. That's fine. Because last weekend, like yesterday, we went to the Hebrides. The Outer Hebrides. Ooh. So, we had to drive approximately 5 hours up to Ullapool, not sure how to pronounce it, no one told us. It's Ullapool, Ullapool. And we drove there. It took us actually like around Scotland. But we drove there. We stopped at whatever we wanted to along the way. So I think we saw a waterfall, the Wailing Widow. And there's this cool story where the widow's husband was a hunter, and he was hunting, and he fell off this waterfall, and she went to look for him and saw his body at the bottom and jumped off crying. And then Robert says it's a real story, but hasn't been proven as fact yet. So we went and saw that, and it was super awesome. It was really cool. And then we drove to the town, and we were getting ready to get on a ferry. It was going to be a 2.5-hour ferry ride over to the Hebrides, their islands. And we got to the town, tried to find some food. It was a very seafood-oriented space, and I don't do shellfish or fish. So we ended up eating at like the very touristy spot. Wasn't that great? But we got some trinkets, to memorialize, to help us remember the town and stuff. We got on the ferry. We drove on the ferry, and it was huge. It was a massive ferry, and we went upstairs, can't stay in your car, and I ended up sleeping for like most of the ferry ride. Robert and I stayed awake for like the first 45 minutes, so I could see us, pulling out, see us get into open water. It's interesting, boat language is international, so like in the U.S., I always knew, because Dad, red right return, you want the red buoy on your right when you are coming home. And it's the same way here, and it was so cool. Little nautical fact. So we got on the ferry, ferried to the Outer Hebrides. We landed in Stornoway, the like principal city on the Isle of Lewis, and also Harris, but Lewis. And we stayed the night there. They do bed and breakfast. It's a bed and breakfast, but it's under like hotels if you look for it. So we stayed at this cute little bed and breakfast, managed to get a huge bed, which was great because we have a double here, so. But the guy was really nice, and we went to dinner. We were looking everywhere for dinner, and the guy who owned the B&B said, go to this place called 11, and then he suggested another place that we both heard, H1N1, and we're pretty sure it's not named after the flu, but we didn't know. And we got to 11, and it looked really fancy. It started to get late, so we were looking for another restaurant to go to, and Robert found one, and its like tagline was like, great Indian and Italian cuisine. So we like rushed over to that restaurant because it said Italian, and we both like Indian food. And we got there. It was so bizarre. They only had one Italian dish. They had lasagna. They didn't have anything else with noodles. They had like a vegetarian lasagna, or vegan or something. It didn't have noodles. And they had like a bunch of Indian food, a bunch of Chinese food, which wasn't even like on the thing. It was so good though. I got butter chicken, and it was sweeter than I'd had, because there's an Indian restaurant here in Glasgow, Mother India. Really great. We go to the one that's good. Apparently there's two and one's bad, but we go to the good one. And they have butter chicken, and it's spicy and like zangy, like almost like not citrusy, but I don't know. If you eat Indian food, you probably know what I'm talking about. And they have good naan bread. But this restaurant's butter chicken was really sweet. And so I had the butter chicken. Robert got the lasagna. The lasagna had this cheese that just melted in your mouth. It was so good. I got a strawberry daiquiri. I was so excited. And the lady walked away, and Robert said, "Did you get alcohol in it?" I said, "I forgot to say, I want a virgin one." So we called her back. I was like, "Hi, can I get that to be a virgin daiquiri, please? I don't do the alcohol." She started laughing. She was like, "Sure." She probably thought I was some weirdo, or I was like 12 pretending to be, 24. It was so yummy. It just tasted like a strawberry smoothie. It was so good. And then we had dessert. We were so full, but we pushed forth, they twisted our arm and we got dessert. It was so yummy. It was a chocolate brownie, and it was, and they put it with this, it was custard, which to me sounds like really gross, but it was okay. It was vanilla custard. And then we went to bed, and then we woke up in Stornoway and started our adventure on the Isle of Lewis. So we drove, and we saw, I can't remember what we saw first. We saw a lighthouse first. I don't remember what the lighthouse was called. It was small, but it was really interesting. Two families lived there, the lightkeeper's family and then the assistant lightkeeper's family, until 1998, when it finally became automatic. Fun fact. But apparently being a lighthouse keeper was really difficult for apparently obvious reasons, because it wasn't like they told us. But it was really nice, and we got to see these huge cliffs, and seagulls are cliff-bearing birds, cliff-nesting birds, so they nest in the cliff. Didn't know that. Not sure what cliffs they're nesting in South Carolina, but the ones in Scotland are cliff-nesting birds. Got to see the crashing blue water. Isle of Lewis and Harris, they're known for their beaches. They actually got into a huge lawsuit because a company was coming, a Tahitian or something, maybe Tahiti, some company was coming and taking pictures on Isle of Lewis beaches and saying that it was, it was the Bahamas, it was Tahiti, wherever they were saying it was. And Isle of Lewis was like, "No, that's Scotland. That's not some tropical warm place. It's just Scotland." Although this weekend was uncomfortably warm for Scotland. All of Europe is apparently in a huge heat wave, so Scotland, it was up to 73. Pretty toasty for a country that's high is typically 11 Celsius. So that was nice. I didn't pack for warm weather, so I was in shorts. The one pair of shorts I brought to sleep in. So we went to see the lighthouse on the cliffs, and then we saw the Stornoway stones, the standing stones. So it's really weird. They have them in two lines, and then a ring, one in the one big one in the middle, and then two going this way, and then one going this way. So it looks almost like a cross, but it was made 2,300 years ago. So a little bit before Jesus. So it couldn't have been a cross. At least not a Christian cross. So it was very fascinating. They have no idea what it was used for. Not a clue. It's older than Stonehenge. It's bigger. Although the rocks at Stonehenge are really thick, 2 humans thick. These are really thin, but they did some unearthing and found some human bones, so maybe it was a burial site, but then they also found relics. I don't know. They're not sure what's going on. It was super cool. The midges were bad though, tiny mosquito-ish bugs. And I was dressed up, obviously, because hello, Outlander, first off. But it was really busy, very, very popular place. And then we went and saw a Broch, B-R-O-C-H, Broch. They have a little in their voice. It's Gaelic. And it is a Iron Age shelter for the wealthy people of the community. It's really cool. It's a circle of stones, and then an inner circle of stones, and then in between the 2 stone circles there is stairwells so that you can get to the top layer and you can get around. There's rooms in the walls. And if the people of the city, the Iron Age city, needed like to hide. They could all run into the Brock and hide in the walls. But they're still not quite sure what it was used for, but they have like evidence that there were like beads and furs and tobacco and all this stuff inside of it. So they think it was a residential. Really interesting. But it was under construction. So we just kind of got to walk around the outside. Then we drove down to see this like chess piece. So a long time ago, actually like the 1800s, they found a Norse, the wind blew it away. Robert would know the story better. He told it to me like 3 different times, and I'm never good at telling it again. So the wind, this huge storm came in and blew the dunes away on one of the like islands, the side of the island, the coastline. And some guy in the 1800s was walking around and found this like stone structure. So I don't know if it was a room or like just like a cave that was purposeful, not natural. But he went in and he found this box, this Norse box, like carved, and inside was a chess game with chess pieces. So that was actually super cool. So some artists re-sculpted like a giant version of one of the king's chess pieces. And I actually got a queen chess piece. Oh, this is Robert. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And while I was up, this is a chessman. This is the queen. Obviously, she's a little bigger. The original ones were like this big. But this is the queen. This is what the queen looks like. But the statue is of the king, but obviously I got the queen because, duh. Hello, I am one. So, yes, we saw the chess piece, and we walked the beach past the chess piece at low tide. We got there at low tide. It had to have been 1.5 miles, 2 miles long. Like, lengthwise, from, like, beach beginning, like, off the dune, all the way to the ocean. It was wild. We, like, came up on top of the sand dune, and we were like, where's the water? There's so much sand. It was so weird. So we like walked all the way to the water and then wanted to get a better view. So we like climbed back up on this thing. And it was colder because the sun wasn't out. But it was very beautiful, very unique. Definitely super weird. Didn't look like how you think Scotland would. The water was blue. The sand was white. It wasn't made of stones. But people were out there, doing their beach thing. No one was really in the water though. And then we drove to Tarbes in Harris, the Isle of Harris, and we tried to go into the tweed shop, Harris Tweed, but it was closed because of Corona. So we went to this like secondary tweed shop where I got Miss Lady. We got another little trinket or two. There was some nice glass. Oh, I forgot to mention in Stornoway, we saw like this amazing pottery place, and everything was really expensive, but we figure when we get older they ship internationally, so we can get some of their pottery when we get older. But it was really beautiful. They're painted right there. I don't know how to describe it. It was gorgeous. And then we drove, fast forward, we drove to Tarbes, got some fun stuff, got groceries because we were hungry and they didn't have any restaurants really because it was like 3:30 when we got there. And Tarbes is where we were going to leave in the morning. So we just kind of scoped out the city, it smelled. So in one of these places, like right in the parking lot, there was like an Essence of Lewis, like shop. And we got this really cool painting of Scotland, and it's had this like really nice smell. And I'm wearing my mask, so I like kind of put my mask down. And for my family, it smelled just like Mr. Guy. It was so weird. So Mr. Guy is my mom's stepdad, second stepdad. He married my grandmother, I guess before I was born. I'm not quite sure. He's since passed, but he was like 90 billion years old. He was amazing, and he smelled so good all the time. Not unlike how my dad's dad smells really yummy. For some reason, recently, obviously not recently, but at Christmas, he like smelled so yummy. My Papa Joe's hair smelled delicious. But Mr. Guy's like whole aura smelled good, and it was like cologne. Like it wasn't like his being wasn't, it was a non-natural scent that he would like spray all over himself. And I don't even know what it's called, but they had like a candle and one of those like the sticks in the oil thing of that smell. And I almost got it, but then I realized it would probably make me sad if I smelled it all the time, but it smelled so good. So then after that we went to the beach, a big like cool beach on Harris. It was massive too. Super long, super tall dunes. I mean, the dunes were like 3 stories high. They put the dunes at Litchfield to shame. It was wild. But we walked around. Robert got in the water. I was gonna get in the water. I put a bathing suit on and everything, but it was very frigid. I mean, like hurt cold. So not my jive. Did not do it. But I walked in it and I collected some. It's one of the clearest waters in the world. Some guy was funny. Robert said, "Is it cold?" And the guy goes, "It's the clearest water you'll ever swim in." And Robert was like, "Wow!" And I'm sitting there thinking, I've swum in the Bahamas and Costa Rica and in the BVI's, so not thinking it's the clearest water, but I'm sure it's super clear. But you know, for Scotland, it was super clear. It was weird. And you could like see, it's never ceases to amaze me how fantastic clear water can be. So the views were spectacular. And we decided we were going to camp on that beach because it was only 15 minutes away and we had to wake up super early anyway, so we might as well just camp on the beach. So Robert found this like killer spot up on the dunes, like way at the top of the dunes. So we camped out up there, had an amazing view of the beach and of the sun, and it was just phenomenal. So I put some pictures of what it looked like in the morning and what it looked like at night. And we made a fire after we ate dinner, and we just sat there and chitty-chatted since it was my second to last weekend in Scotland. We just kind of enjoyed the very uncharacteristic Scottishness of our situation. Because I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is exactly what I'd want to be doing in Greece, where it's hot, and I'm in a bathing suit, not in like 3 sweatshirts. But it was lovely, very nice. And in the morning we woke up, the ground was surprisingly very hard. Not a fan. We woke up and the midges were awful. They were swarming. Robert was like head to toe covered in chicken pox bites of all these little bugs. I had them all over my legs. Like I keep itching them because they still itch really bad. They swarmed. So Robert got out to do something and I just locked him out and made him do everything outside the tent while I like cleaned up inside the tent and folded the sleeping bags and stuff. And then we just like kind of ran to the car because it was so itchy. My legs were like absolutely attacked. I thought I was just really hairy. It turns out they were bugs. It was wild. So we got back to the car and we rushed to the ferry terminal and we got on the ferry. And so I tried to stay awake a little longer this time, but it didn't work. I just, passed out on the ferry again. Woke up to the foghorn blowing because it was super foggy outside. So that was exciting. There was a family next to us too that was like screaming to each other instead of just talking normal. So that was lovely. And we got on to Skye. So the second ferry took us from Tarbes to Uig Skye, which is the island we were on like a couple weekends ago where we saw the ferry pools. And once we got on Skye, we looked up to see if a castle that was closed. Last time they were open, it was. So we went to the grounds and saw the castle grounds. It was beautiful. They had water features and this big walled garden, and it was really stunning. And it was on like a peninsula kind of thing. So then we kept driving. We stopped and saw 2 brocks that we hadn't seen on the way to Skye before. One was like almost fully, not really almost fully there, but it's more circular, and the other one had like a big cave in. But you could still walk up on both steps. So that was, it was really cool to be in something that was so old. You know, you can touch it and walk around it and walk up the steps, and it was a very, very unique feeling. And then we saw Eilean Donan, which was a castle we'd already seen before. It's like the most pictured, photographed, that's the word. The most photographed castle in Scotland. It's like out on this peninsula. It was rebuilt in the 1920s. It took like 20 years from 1912 or 15 to 1930 to get all renovated and stuff. It's very beautiful. It was actually so bizarre though. So like we'd already been around like the outside exterior. So when we went in the interior, obviously the tour guides can't tour like they normally would, but we went in and we started talking to this guy, and he was like, "Oh, the Macleod family, they are the ones who redid it. You know, the Macleod man married rich, and she like funded the rebuilding of this castle because it used to be their clan or something." So, we're listening to this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, there's artifacts all in here from the Macleods." So we were like, "Okay, great." So I'm looking down at these artifacts, and the Macleods had moved to the United States in the clearances, in the Highland clearances. And so there were still some Macleods that were sending over artifacts or whatever. Turns out in 1830s, this Macleod sent over to his relative an arrowhead from where he was. And I'm looking at the arrowheads. I'm like, wow, those look like arrowheads I found. Like, those look Native American. They don't look Pictish, because the Picts are the natives of Scotland. So then I read, Arrowhead from the U.S. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they are United States arrowheads. Duh. Oh, Arrowhead from Camden, South Carolina. I said, oh my God, that's where I'm from. Like, I'm from like 30 minutes from there. And the guy was like, no way. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I know that. That is awesome. That's me. So that was really cool. So there are McCloyds in South Carolina in the 1830s. Don't know where they are now, but they sent back an arrowhead from South Carolina to Scotland. Small world. So then we say, oh, thank you so much. Leave with him. Go through another room. This guy's giving like children a tour, and he's like, oh, girls, isn't that fascinating? And I'm like, I want to know what's fascinating. He's like, well, you are in a dress. Obviously, I was in my dress. So he gave us a little tour. We got to see like these like secret passageways kind of thing. It was awesome. Showed me a magic trick, like a shoe. Oh, it was like Mona Lisa, but it was the shoe always pointing at me. And then I'm talking to him, and we're talking about Robert's clans over in Scotland, and we're talking about, you know, and he makes a comment like, oh, something, banjo players. And Robert was like, I'm a banjo player. Then it gets weirder. As he's talking, we're saying our goodbyes. I notice he's wearing a pin, like a pin that would hold a kilt together, but it's on his shirt because he's not wearing a kilt. And I'm looking at it, and it's in Latin, and it's for the McLennan clan. And I'm looking at it, I said, your pin, Dum Spiro Spero, it's in Latin. And before he could say, oh, it means, I said, while I breathe, I hope. He said, how do you know that? You must be a McLennan. I said, no, actually, I'm a South Carolinian. And he kind of looked at me, and I said, that's our state motto, is while I breathe, I hope. And he said, what? And I was like, I know. So he's thinking that the McLennans probably went to South Carolina and probably helped establish that state motto. How cool would that be? What a small world. So, of course, I freaked out and called Dad, and Dad said he'd Google it. So if anyone wants to know the answer, ask Dad. But that was really small world. So we got back in the car, kept driving. We technically saw the Brocks afterwards. Oh, one of the guys in the castle told us to go up and see this amazing view so we could take a picture of the castle. We did. And then we kept driving, and we were going to go to this place called Kilchurn Castle that we'd been before, but we were going to see if it was open. But then we got really tired, and it had been a really long day, and we have a lot to do still. We decided to just come on back to Glasgow, and if it's open, we'll go later, and if it's not, then we didn't miss anything. So we got back to Glasgow at like 10, and our room is a mess because of our camping experience, and we're just trying to get ready. Robert's in the library doing some work. I took today off, and tomorrow I'm just going to try to grind out the rest of my paper. I'm over the word count, so it's not like I have to fluff anything, so that's good. But then Wednesday, we're going to eat dinner with our friends in the park, and Robert's going to play some music and stuff, so got things planned this week. Oh, and last week, our friend Jepson took us to, this is so funny, he took us to this place called Falkland Falls, and so he drove us like up past Loch Lomond, like an hour and a half away, and I wasn't gonna do it. It was cold. It was like a swimming hole, but it was cold. It wasn't that cold that day, but the water was cold, so I just filmed the boys do it, and then Robert jumped off from a little higher spot, way higher spot actually. I'll put the video in. And then I decided, you know what, no, if Robert and Jefferson can do it, then I can easily do it. Jefferson's almost 50, like this, I can do this. So I didn't want to look like a weenie because these boys can do it, then I can. So I put my bathing suit on and I surprised them and I jumped in. So there's no video of me doing it, but I did do it. It was freezing, but it was okay at the end. It wasn't like, take your breath away cold, like the Hebrides water is. So we did that, and it was so fun. And then we ate dinner, and I met this New Zealand girl in the bathroom, and she was so nice. And she, sat down at our table and told us her life story, told me I had a cool accent, asked Robert if he knew how lucky he was, hello. Just always meeting new people in Scotland. But we've got a lot left to do, and yeah, that's it right now. Got a lot left to do, mentally, emotionally, physically. So wish us luck, and I'll let you guys know how this week and next weekend goes next Sunday. See you later. Some of my pictures wouldn't upload. I apologize if I missed anything, but this is where we are in the age of technology. No! 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 Here we are, getting on the cruise ship. It's our ferry, headed to the Hebrides. That's me. Hello. I don't know if you can hear it, but all the car alarms are going off. Robert's there. You know, Scotland just has so many beautiful landscapes. Not that we'd be able to see it, and not that it's here. Robert! We're on the ferry. Woke up super early, was attacked by midges, and now we're headed towards Skye, the Isle of Skye, to drive back home.
Someone said it was low tide and I didn't believe them until we figured out that we have a mile walk
To the ocean. Hello.
Look at how big the waves are.
The waves crashing on this rock over. Come on, Robert Eric. He's jumped off higher.
Yeah, he's clear.
Woo!
Where then?
Yeah, like this big rock. On the beach.
Pretty cold.
What's interesting is that Robert and I were both there when we saw jellyfish that were like 8 feet long off the boat yesterday. So I'm interested to see if he remembers that there are a lot of jellyfish. And here he comes, coming back because it's too cold. We're gonna jump. Robert, no. No. No.
Someone said it was low tide and I didn't believe them until we figured out that we have a mile walk
To the ocean.
We're out here at the 2020 dog show of Isle of Skye. We got one contestant going through right now. She's a good girl.
I'm stuck.
She's really falling behind the other dogs. They're much faster.
My dress is stuck, bro.
This dog, LEB, likes long walks on the beach and loves to play fetch.
I do not like to play fetch. I'm stuck in my dress.
Her treat of choice is lizard sicket. Look, girl, there's lizard sicket over here. Come on. Come on.
My dress is getting so dirty. It hurts my knees. How do kids think this is fun? Yay, team.